Women, in most eyes, have always been the quote unquote weaker gender. However, given the evidence of the way women have evolved, this gender stereotype is false information. Two women in literature, Maya Angelou and Anne Sexton, have overcome and achieved what most people could not imagine. Through the overall battles that come with being a woman, to the racial discrimination and the poor mental health that these women battled with daily, these two poets are not only historical proof of true evolution, but some of the most influential women in the literary world. Maya Angelou was born on April 4th, 1928, in St. Louis, Missouri. Becoming an American author, actress, screenwriter, dancer, poet, and civil rights activist was not easy for Angelou, for she was not only fighting against the challenges that being a woman had brought upon her, but she also had the constant battle of racism. It seems that she had to start fighting as a child, but undoubtedly made it out of the bad and became an inspiration to many. Angelou had a challenging childhood, all beginning with her parents splitting up, thus causing her and her older brother to go live with their grandmother in Arkansas. At this time, she experienced racial prejudices and discrimination and even became a sexual assault victim by her mother's boyfriend. Once assaulted, Angelou, quote unquote, revealed what happened and her uncles kicked the culprit to death. All of the trauma brought upon by the murder of this man brought Angelou to become a virtual mute. From the age of 7 to the age of 12, she was a mute. And although PTSD took over her life for years, she did not let this setback stop her from being successful. After obtaining her high school education, she became the first Black woman to work at many jobs and became the first African American to have a nonfiction bestseller with the memoir I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, 1969. The poem Caged Bird depicts Angelou's feelings of entrapment caused by racism and oppression. Angelou uses the metaphor of a bird trapped within a cage to portray her confinement to her readers. Within the poem, she explains how the bird that is not caged can fly around and live in the world as it pleases, while the other bird that is caged has to sit there in that cage and suffer. The quote, "But a caged bird stands on the grave of dreams, his shadow shouts on a nightmare, screams his wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing," is a representation of how that bird is feeling, thus describing how African Americans, like the author herself, think with the constant ridicule they get for being who they are. They cannot do anything about what was being done but sing to change the world. The poem Still I Rise portrays the message of strength and beauty shown by Black communities, even though they have been delivered nothing but the ridicule of oppression and discrimination for hundreds of years. The opening stanza, "You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I rise," emphasizes the belittlement thrown towards the Black community. She illustrates how one can be, even though they have fought many battles that they did not deserve to have to fight. On the Pulse of the Morning was written for the inauguration of Bill Clinton in January of 1993. It is mainly trying to get through to the audience that America needs to take responsibility for the violent history and caused genocide in slavery. It was meant to convince Americans to create a more unified and peaceful America to better the future. Angelou writes, "History, despite all of its violence and agony, can't be undone. But if it is faced with courage, it doesn't have to repeat itself." She portrays the audience that everyone in the past has not lived the quote-unquote American dream of having equal opportunity. However, that can change. the people of America can stop following in the footsteps of history and truly become one. Anne Sexton was born on November 9, 1928, in Newton, Massachusetts. Becoming a contemporary American poet, best known for her poetry's relentlessly autobiographical nature and her personal, confessional voice, was not an easy path to take. Still, she powered through it in a sense like no other. Sexton's childhood was never the best, for the relationship with her parents was considered to be abusive. She attended boarding school, where she started writing poetry, and then enrolled in college for a year before getting married. Although Sexton had a troublesome childhood, she had most of her problems after her first child. Sexton suffered from postpartum depression, experienced her first breakdown, and was admitted to a neuropsychiatric hospital. However, that trip was not the final one. She ended up struggling with depression for the rest of her life and was admitted several other times after. Throughout her years of dealing with her mental illness, Sexton wrote to stop her mind from swaying towards death. First given as a therapeutic way to deal with her mental health, it became ritual. She wrote about subjects that were previously unexplored in poetry, such as abortion, menstruation, and the allure of her suicidal thoughts. However, despite her noteworthy writings, many thought the topics she wrote about were embarrassing and inappropriate in the literary world. Still, following the actions she wished to do, she did not let others' thoughts stop her from writing on those topics. She was an influencer in a way that people in her time had not yet experienced. She spoke on issues for women, about women, and those struggles they all went through. And although she was a powerful woman, she eventually gave in to the suicidal temptations at 46. Her Kind is a compilation of imagery illustrating the life of a woman. She describes the hardships that women, even to this day, face and the roles they have to play while upholding the health of their mentality and physical body. She also tried to persuade the audience to become one and unite because women would need to do so to overcome what they need to do. Throughout the poem, she used as a line, quote unquote, "I have been her kind." By this, she showed the relationship she has with all of the different women and how they have all been treated because of their gender. Wanting to Die is a poem that Sexton openly expressed her constant desire to die in the continuous battle she fought against. Within the poem, Sexton portrays suicide as a living thing. She suggests that it has a mind of its own and she cannot control it. She uses the quotation, quote unquote, "But suicides have a special language," thus showing the strength of suicidal thoughts. After that line, she describes this quote by relating it to a real-world scenario so that everyone can understand how easily these thoughts can consume one. The poem was written to bring awareness to others about what a mental illness can genuinely do to one's overall health, along with allowing Sexton to write her feelings down in a beautiful manner. A Curse Against Elegies is a poem written to address the dislikes she has about herself, the things she cannot control. The you she describes throughout the poem is not a specific person, but the personification of those disliked attributes in herself. Throughout the poem, she describes the battles and arguments she is continuously having with her habits. They are so controlling that they are like a more substantial, completely different person. When referring to, quote unquote, "I am so tired of your pious talk," also, "I am tired of all the dead," Sexton is portraying how split her mind is when it comes to her obsession with death. She is tired of continually having that want, and yet she could not even come close to controlling it.